Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Pac-12 Chat Show Live here on the Voice of College Football channel and community. I'm Tony Altimore here with Tim Prangley, LBC Trojan, and Chris, and we are excited to bring you a 2023 schedule party. We're also, later in the show, going to talk about what we have coming up next week, which is the Pac-12 Awards. It is going to be a hooray for Hollywood moment, but on tonight's show, we're going to have everybody here in the chat, then you guys in the comments. If you're watching this afterwards, we want to hear a lot about who you think should be for awards, and we'll tell you a secret. They're not just your regular awards. They are some very West Coast awards. We're looking forward to it. Guys, welcome back. We missed you all last week.
It's great to be back, Tony, Tim, and Chris. Good to see you all.
I always think we're signing off for a hiatus, and then we come back, and here we are again.
And here we are.
I'm glad to see all you guys, as always.
Of all the gin joints in all the world. Oh, well, guys, we had huge news today. Although, actually, it kind of happened yesterday, but officially today. And the Pac-12 released its schedule. So why don't we talk about it? This was pretty wild. We've got the schedule has come out now. We've got next year's season all set. A couple of things, certainly some interesting things. USC fans, some of them were upset. Some Oregon fans are upset. They thought USC was getting too favorable, so it's kind of debatable. One thing we do want to say, before it comes up, and John Wilner clarified this for everybody. The reason that USC has a bye the last week of the season is that was supposed to be BYU. The way that USC and Stanford have a relationship, and I just thought I would just put this out there for people to know, is that there's a three-way relationship with USC, Stanford, and Notre Dame that the Pac-12 respects. And what they do is Notre Dame plays the weekend of Thanksgiving in California, whether it's against USC or Stanford, and then the other one plays in South Bend in mid-October. So that really messes up the schedule. So USC and Stanford then always play each other in week 2 to compensate for that Notre Dame situation that's later. And the last several years, BYU has played whoever Notre Dame wasn't playing in California. With BYU joining the Big 12 and that not fitting with the Big 12 schedule, BYU canceled that game with USC. So USC had an available date, and they scheduled instead San Jose State, but San Jose State couldn't play the last game of the season, so instead it's a week 0 game to make up for BYU. So that is why USC has a week 0 game and no last week game. It is not a conspiracy for USC to have an extra bye at the end of the season.
And Tony, San Jose State also had the flexibility to play week 0. It's because they're playing Hawaii. So they have a 13-game schedule.
So they're allowed to play that week 0.
That's why it worked out. And, that's why, USC didn't choose to get 2 byes. That's just how the schedule worked out. As you mentioned, with the quirks that happen when you have Stanford, Notre Dame, and USC. There's only so many weekends that you can schedule the rest of the conference, and that's the way it is.
And the thing of it is technically it's not even really a bye, because it's just your season starts 1 week earlier and it ends 1 week earlier.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying we have 2 byes. We don't have 2 byes. They're not in the middle of the season. We have
Tony. Were Oregon fans were they upset because they thought it would be unfair for SC to have a bye before the conference championship game? Is that what they were upset about?
No, they're upset because they would like to schedule USC and UCLA to visit the 1985 Chicago Bears every single week.
And the thing is before anyone starts screaming the fact
if you read, I love John Canzano, so I'm gonna pick on John Canzano just because I love him and respect him a lot. But he really is he wanted the conference to smite SC and UCLA, and the conference instead just gave the conference did exactly. I think they did exactly what was expected.
I joked around with it with you guys before we started about how let's not turn this into a bunch of complaining about SC's last 6 games. but it's not like the conference. I don't think it's as far as some people have taken it, where it's like, it's a schedule, and I don't think it's necessarily like as vindictive as some people might think. But it's also not.
I don't think it is at all.
I mean, to be fair, it's not easy. Like ending the season in back-to-back weeks with no bye, like with Notre Dame, Utah, Cal, Washington, Oregon, UCLA, all back, like all back to back, is not an easy stretch. And even like I'm telling you, even that Cal game at Cal, I know that they're like not very good, but when you squeeze something like that into the rest of them, it all of a sudden becomes a lot harder, because like it's hard to be that good 6 weeks in a row. And I mean, if you're great, then you do it anyway, but that's a tough stretch. It's just like sometimes the schedule can not help you out. Whereas like
however,
UCLA,
can I throw in one little kink?
Yeah, go for it.
I think that every single practice that USC has where they get to try something new called tackling will be better.
Well, let me jump in really quick with 2 points on scheduling. I'll hit a little bit on USC really quick.
Actually, Tim, before you do that, can I answer 2 quick questions from the chat? Hold that thought, because I just answered 2 quick questions in the chat. Oscar wants to know, why do they call it game 0 and not game 1? Because it's actually before the first week of the season. The first week of the season is week 1. There are some special games that teams are allowed to play in week 0, which is the week before week 1. And then to Matthew, Oregon fans all over the internet are whining like crazy. So if you have somehow missed them, I wish I was you. Okay, sorry, Tim. Go ahead.
Well, there's 2 points that really need to be made. One, anyone out there is complaining preferential treatment, USC, blah, blah, they're getting a bye before this or that. Remember the situation. The games at USC and Stanford, but more so with USC against Notre Dame, makes any TV package or anything like that very desirable. That is a huge marquee game every year that USC brings into the conference. Every other year, sorry, we have the home game. So you need to take that on board. This is not something that was like, oh, just because it's USC, we're going to give them this. It was something that's been set up for decades, and this is just the way it's been run when USC plays Notre Dame, again, which helps out the entire conference. That's one issue. Also, the bye issue. If you notice, take a look at that graphic, Tony. Great graphic. A bye is usually in game 5, 6, 7, somewhere in the middle of the season, giving yourself a little, like a halftime, right? Guys beat each other up for 30 minutes, and then they get a little bit of time to kind of regroup and get back onto the field. USC's, take a look at that graphic. It illustrates it the best. No one else has a bye, not even week 3 or week 4. Everyone's week 5 and on. And that's pretty brutal.
And USC's bye per se would be the Notre Dame game. But we've chosen to play the Notre Dame game in South Bend in the middle of October, because that's what we've done for 70 years. So we sort of do that to ourselves a little bit.
Well, we could. Well, I don't understand that, because why don't we have a bye and when we play the Buffalo, move the Buffaloes or Arizona State or Arizona up. That doesn't have to be there in week 3. Not because we play Notre Dame in that week doesn't mean that we can't do it that way. They could have worked out a schedule a little different. But overall,
I guess hypothetically, but they've already reworked the schedule. Like the schedule for Stanford and Notre Dame, or excuse me, for Stanford and USC is already sort of like reeked into a mess. And this happens, by the way, guys, this is not this schedule. This is, to you guys in the chat, this is every year that this happens. It's one of the reasons that the Pac-12 scheduling is so complex, is because of what USC and Stanford do with Notre Dame.
And then in the chat, if you don't know how it works, they propose a schedule and there's a vote. So all the schools vote on the schedules. The one that was adopted was opposed by 2 schools, and that was USC and UCLA is what people are thinking. Because again, if you look, UCLA, I mean, I don't know, Chris, yours isn't really.
It's fine. It's fine. The thing about our schedule, I mean, it looks. I mean, I'll say right out the gate, it looks like another like 9-3, 8-4 kind of year. All of our easiest games in conference, or I would say, without maybe Stanford, maybe flip Stanford, Washington's Washington State, but most of our easy games are at home, and all our hard games are on the road. So if you like assume that you lose to like Utah on the road, the Beavers on the road, and SC on the road or something, then that's how you end up like 9-3 and or slip one up in like 8-4. But there's nothing to complain about with our
and
schedule.
eyeballing it. If I were to guess, I think it would be USC and Washington, because if you look at Washington's home stretch, that's also brutal as hell. I mean, you got USC, Utah, then in Corvallis, and then the Apple Cup, which is the Apple Cup, right? So I mean, that's going to be there.
And remember two other things. Washington has Oregon, which is their game that is, their arguably biggest rivalry in many of their minds. Then they have Arizona State, who they are cursed against.
And then they both, for that game though, they do have Oregon and Washington. They both have a bye for the game, so no one can get.
So I have
one
question
but remember that Washington is cursed against Arizona State.
In terms of like backloaded schedules, right? I have one question for you guys though. Do you think, because I sometimes kind of wondered this, and then I think it actually makes sense from like a hype perspective, is do you think the conference in a way tries to backload all of these schedules so that like you have a bunch of ranked teams at the end all playing each other in these huge games, and they all have, assuming they take care of business and don't like, don't slip up to someone they shouldn't lose to, right? The fact that like Washington, their non-conference game with like Michigan State notwithstanding, or Boise, I don't really know enough about them, but like their only conference game until the end, like that they could lose or should like theoretically lose, is Oregon, and then they have them all backloaded. Same with SC.
Remember,
to a lesser,
Chris, you remember too, you're talking about Washington's last trip to LA and USC's last trip to Autzen and UCLA's last trip to the desert. So like those things are going to be like made into big deal events.
Right. But if you look at the teams that are backloaded, right, it's mostly Oregon, SC, and Washington, and
Utah,
and to a lesser extent Utah. I would argue with UCLA and Oregon State early, it's not as backloaded as the others. Same with UCLA, because we play Utah early and Utah is good. It's not like we're playing Utah in November in Utah at the end of the schedule. But like the three of the bigger brands are all super backloaded. And to a lesser extent, I think that like also Utah, UCLA kind of are, and Oregon State too, as much as they can actually do it, right? But in a way, I think it's, part of it's setting up for trying to have the bigger brands have better records toward the end of the year, so that the conference is, still relevant nationally when that comes. Maybe that's just me making things up, but I think that it seems like that would be a reason to do it.
AJ, it's not hard. Just try to keep up, okay? We just explained all of that.
AJ, I'm not sure if you were
rewind.
Rewind, because we actually just went over that.
Ask somebody to explain the bigger words for you if you're having trouble following the idea, okay? But we just explained all of that.
BYU canceled the game that was that week, so you can thank BYU.
Can I make a couple comments on some of the other team schedules?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Then I'll just talk about you. No, but
I'm just teasing.
And get it, and it's great. I love all these uneducated fans who think that USC is whining and how they get a favorable schedule. Look, man, it is what it is. It's because USC every year has the balls to schedule Notre Dame and has done so since the I think like 1927. So there's like 22 shared national championships when that game comes to play. Count them, like 14 freaking Heismans, 15. Whether you hate USC or you like USC, it's actually helped build the Pac-12 and give it credibility. Okay, it grew this brand. So if you don't understand that, then I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. But there's a certain sports writer in Arizona who is complaining that he doesn't think that it's smart for Arizona to be playing an SEC team on the road. That's the kind of mentality that you have with some of the Pac-12 teams. I'm sorry if you can't play an SEC team, at their home stadium.
And it's not like you're going to Georgia.
No,
you're going to Mississippi State.
This is like a 7th or 8th, but that 7th or 8th best SEC team, Mississippi State. And this sports writer from Arizona, who I don't need to name his name, you can just find him on Twitter. But I'm sorry. If that doesn't work for you, join the Mountain West, okay? Join the Big 12. But for you to be dissing the Pac-12 like that on the scheduling, he actually thinks that Arizona or that Arizona's schedule is difficult. It's not really difficult. I look at
NAU and UTEP are pretty tough.
Yeah, I look at Colorado's schedule. Obviously, when you're at the bottom of the barrel, credit Colorado for opening up at TCU and then playing their longtime rival Nebraska, then their in-state rival Colorado State.
Colorado has no breaks.
No, and having to go to Oregon and then playing USC in Boulder. Those 5 games are nails. So if anybody has a right to complain, it's CU. Now,
welcome to the Power 5, Dion.
Right, and I want to know what
you guys. Coach Prime is going to get, but the thing about Coach Prime is I don't put it past him to come out of that stretch. Like, I don't put it past him to somehow be like 3-1 going into SC.
And let me tell you something about this. This is perfect. I mean, if there is an SEC team in the Pac-12, it's ASU. You don't have to have grades to get in that school. We already know that. They play 8 home games. Count them, guys. 8 home games, 4 road games. And who the heck is that first game they're playing? I don't even recognize that mascot. Can any of you guys tell me who their first game is in the chat? I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Who is that?
I'm sorry, which team?
Northern Arizona.
ASU's first opponent.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's Arizona's first opponent.
Oh, ASU. Sorry.
Yeah, ASU's first opponent. Who is that mascot?
I honestly don't know, and I know most of the mascots.
So is it Central Connecticut State or is it Southwest Missouri State? I don't know, but
it might be Southern Utah.
Okay, there you go. Southern Utah.
Maybe. I don't know.
They play 3 out of conference games at home, and they play a total of 8 home games and 4 road games. That is SEC.
No, hold on, Rick. I was told by all the Oregon fans that the only SEC program in the Pac-12 is Oregon. That's what I heard. I could be wrong.
Well, I think
that's accurate, but maybe not.
Somebody in the chat asking about USC plays LSU next year,
and then they play. Yeah, and after that,
so I don't know. Whoever is saying like nonsense, and guys, one thing, this is a Pac-12 show, so if you do come with lots of like SEC, not like this person who's talking SEC nonsense, we will just like take you out of the chat for the night.
No, both UCLA.
This is not an SEC show.
Both UCLA and SC have LSU next year.
Yeah, they think they both do, right? Go out, and by the way, kudos to LSU for scheduling that. By the way, like LSU used to have really weak scheduling, and LSU has like great scheduling now. LSU and Georgia deserve props for scheduling, and poor Georgia. I don't want to dwell on SEC, but like Georgia has a pretty weak schedule next year, but it is not Georgia's fault. It is because they had to cancel the Oklahoma game because of the Oklahoma moving into the conference scheduling. And they had scheduled Oklahoma. So, like, don't let anybody, like, talk smack to them about that because UGA scheduled to put up a good schedule.
And between an annual game.
Yeah, and to John, yes, exactly. LSU, John, for the past, 15 years has done phenomenal job scheduling non-con. Like, phenomenal. Like, they didn't for, most of the 70s, 80s, 90s. And then LSU's really been a leader in scheduling phenomenal non-conference game. So, go Tigers with a GEAUX.
Yeah, after USC and UCLA, they probably will stop putting LA schools on their schedule. So if anyone's going to talk smack about USC, every year they play Notre Dame. They've never played an FCS schedule. So you're probably the pick.
In fact, as of this season, USC will be the only team to have never played an FCS game.
Yeah, UCLA last year and Notre Dame this year have caved. So that's
Yeah, and I give UCLA. And by the way, to our Bruin fans and our Irish fans in the chat, I give you guys some credit. You guys are playing HBCUs, and you're not just playing like powder puff games. You're playing HBCUs, and there's a lot of importance to that. Like this year was the first time an HBCU team had ever played in the Rose Bowl in a regular season game, and that's enormous. That's important for the world, and so I don't fault UCLA for that.
I have
go ahead. I was going to say I like Oregon's schedule. I like what they're doing. They're going on the road to Texas Tech. That is going to be a shootout. That is a very tough team to play in their home stadium. And they get a bye.
Yeah, that's a great game.
Yeah, they get a bye just like Washington, and they got to play their bitter rival on the road in Seattle. Then after coming off of that game, they got to play the Cougs, and the Cougs gave that game away last year to Oregon. That's going to be a tough game. And then you have to go on the road to Rice-Eccles to play Utah. So those 3 games in a row are tough. And you got to look at it from the other schools and basically those 3 games, 2 of those teams will be preseason top 25 teams. They finished in the top 25 last year, and that'll be Washington and Utah. But that's going to be a challenging stretch for Oregon.
So 2 things. If you want to talk about like rough scheduling, we were concentrating on like the backloaded schedules, right? But what Utah has done to itself with its out of conference scheduling, is like they have Florida at home, and then they're Baylor on the road, who wasn't what they were, like 2 years ago, last year, but very well could be back to being relevant and good again. And then they have, I think that's Weber State or something. And so that's like the quasi bye week. And then it's UCLA and Oregon State. And I have a feeling you could have like I'm not saying this is going to happen, but you could have the same kind of Utah team, where all of a sudden, they're starting the season out, 3-2, and they're like, and they might be pretty good, and everyone's forgot about them, and then they run through everyone at the end like they always do.
Hey, USCJ,
right? Like it sets up perfectly for exactly who Utah is, where they start out slow every year, everybody forgets about them, and at the end of the year, they're in the conference title game.
USCJ, thank you for the $5 super chat. You are definitely one of my favorites. I watch all your shows. You and John Walker are killing it.
Oh wait, is that the USCJ?
Those of you guys out there, if you have a chance,
USCJ.
Go check out. I watched recently. He had, if you're a USC fan, he had Darwin Barlow on there, running back for USC. Great kid, great interview. But USCJ, thank you. Fight on. Love your show.
Thank you, USCJ. And not only that, guys, hey, another game, a game that I thought was kind of interesting, by the way, that I didn't realize until the schedule came out today. The Bruins might be San Diego State's arguably first Pac-12 game.
I hope that they're about as good as they were last year and they don't get any better.
Well, so you guys are going to Snapdragon Stadium, which that'll actually be really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, those games are always kind of playing like the Fresno States and San Diego States of the world as like a California school where like most of the kids on those teams, would have loved to gone to the, like anytime you're playing like an interstate school that's on the quote unquote lower level, it always scares me. Because I mean, we saw how that went for UCLA with Fresno State. Like those kids are always going to get up for those games, but
we are still scarred by the 1993 Freedom Bowl. So we hear you on that.
It'll be interesting. I have a question. Is Auburn in shambles enough that when they make the cross country trip to Cal actually has a chance?
That's a great question. You got to take a look at Auburn. And because of the transfer portal, there are teams that make a quick turnaround once they hire a new head coach. Look at Sonny Dykes at TCU last year. We remember a couple years ago with Michigan State and their turnaround. Does Auburn, like you mentioned, Chris, they're in shambles, but you have Hugh Freeze going in there, and they're number 2 in the transfer portal right now. I think the last time I saw they had 13 transfers. So if there is a team to play,
do you think Hugh Freeze will try to do like an exorcism on Berkeley?
Who knows, man? Who knows? But that is a team, and that's another team. That's another thing to look at is, hey, what is this? January 18th, and we're talking about schedules, and we'll be talking about them ad nauseum until August, and analyzing them, breaking down, and people will be doing videos and all that kind of thing on each one and making predictions like we always do. But the transfer portal changes a lot of things. And so you look at some of these games, especially out of conference, it'll be interesting to see what teams do. And that's one I'm looking for is Auburn at Cal.
And by the way, what do you guys think about, speaking of the Bruins, talk about trap game, Coastal?
I mean, that team's been really good some years. I don't know enough about them to know whether they're supposed to be good currently or next year. But I think, you schedule these things like 5 or 10 years in advance. Maybe I don't know how long ago this one got put on the schedule, but like as soon as I saw the name, like a few years ago, and they had it like roll in there, I was like, oh gosh, why did we do this to ourselves? Like, if you're gonna play someone good, at least have it be a brand so it doesn't feel as bad when you lose to them.
So you don't get Tulane?
Right, exactly.
We didn't choose that one though. But
yeah, Tulane, and nobody's allowed to tackle. Mark, our guru voice of college ball, points out, and Mark, we love this too. Colorado playing TCU and Nebraska, and then in-state, their easiest, well, not really easiest game because it's a good team, but in-state rival Colorado State. I mean, that you guys, that Colorado schedule, kudos. I mean, Rick George, we put Rick George in the dumpster fire graphically this year repeatedly, and we want to officially extinguish that. Rick George, we salute you. You got Coach Prime in, you're redoing it, and you got a schedule here that really I think should be the model for the country.
Well, it's a model, but most likely, unfortunately, because I think he's bringing guys in there. But if you look at the first 5 games, he might be opening up 1-4. But Nebraska, see how much Nebraska, see how much they can rebound.
I know they got Matt Rule
with Rule, but
and how about the Huskies? They've got Boise, which is has all kinds of like regional hoopla tied to it. They do get kind of an easy one, hopefully probably at home against Tulsa, and then they go to East Lansing.
Yeah,
so that'll be a good game.
They've got a great out-of-conference schedule, and this is an opportunity for Utah. Larry Pilgrim, I love you. Thank you for joining our show. I hope you're off to a great year. But Utah has this weird dynamic that I'm learning. They go at it with their little brother or stepbrother or redheaded stepchild, BYU in state. They go at it. And, they want to see who's the best in Utah. But, and they got these fans that, hey, we're back-to-back Pac-12 champions. We beat UCLA and we beat USC and Caleb twice the same year. You know what? That's like nirvana for them. And kudos to you guys. Congratulations. But win a Rose Bowl. Win a big game on a national stage when it matters. You lost 2 in a row to Ohio State and to Penn State. And that Penn State team was coached by James Franklin. Clay Helton beat James Franklin. And that team was a lot better. Perhaps you saw Saquon Barkley kick some butt for the Giants in their NFL playoff game victory, okay? And Gesicki is a tight end for the Miami Dolphins. There are some great players on that Penn State team. So now Utah, you get respect in the Pac-12, but nobody outside the Pac-12 respects Utah. They don't. And now you got a chance. You got Florida coming to Rice-Eccles, and then you go play a 500 Baylor team, who is a good team. on the road. So let's see you win a national game, and then you can puff out your chest.
Yeah. So Tide Guy, by the way, would pick Cal to beat that team that no one knows that Arizona State's playing the first week of the year by 11. So he would say anyone's gonna beat Auburn by 11, as long as they're playing Auburn.
He would. Yeah. Who is that Southern Utah? Hold on, guys.
It
Anybody
is.
in the
It is
chat,
Southern
who
Utah.
are they playing?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is Southern Utah. Yes.
So I'm saying,
Okay, it's Southern Utah. Okay.
they're an SEC team. Come on now.
Yeah, that Arizona State going to the Cowbells, excuse me, Arizona going to the Cowbells is going to be interesting, and Arizona State playing host to Fresno. I mean, that's a good game.
That's going to be a great game. And
Who's their third?
Oklahoma State.
Oh, Oklahoma. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry.
We gave Utah.
I've been looking at some Big 12 numbers, and so the Oklahoma State didn't even feel weird to me.
We gave Utah a hard time a minute ago, Rick, but Rising went down that game. It might have been different if he had been healthy. But my curiosity this year is going to be, is he going to get healthy in time to play Florida? That was a severe lower leg injury that he had. I don't think it's been has it been disclosed what the actual injury is yet? I'm not even sure if it has. But
no, and they cited HIPAA as a reason for not disclosing, which is an interesting thing to do.
Yeah, very interesting in the offseason. But I think they can get some redemption. We've been calling for it. Now we have an SEC team coming to play at Rice Eccles, and I'm hoping he'll be healthy. You guys can show out.
I'd like to give a shout out to Connor and Oregon State for making it be true that UCLA isn't the only team not playing a Power 5 school. So thank you, Connor, for joining UCLA and not having a Power 5 school on your schedule. It's good looking out.
Although that may change in the next couple weeks.
Right. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe it is a Power 5 school.
You guys might both get. I mean, that could San Diego State's welcome to the conference could be playing UCLA and then hosting UCLA and then going up to Corvallis. San Diego State can get introduced to what happens when you go to Corvallis at night.
I got a question.
And San Jose State, and some of you guys don't know, San Jose State was originally supposed to be one of the founders of the Pac-12. It was when Stanford was being really pissy, and they were going to leave Stanford out to die alone. And San Jose State was actually going to be one of the original 5. But we got San Jose State opening with USC, and then hosting Oregon State. So Oregon State's going to San Jose. In fact, Oregon State has 2 games in San Francisco this year. That's kind of cool.
I got a question for everybody. We're still waiting to hear on the Pac-12 media deal. Do you think Kliavkoff is waiting or is going to announce if there is a possibility of 2 new members or more? Do you think that that's going to be tied in with the new media rights deal, and he'll announce that'll be announced along with any potential new members?
So they've said that it will be announced shortly after. So the media deal will be negotiated, and it will include escalator clauses as appropriate. And that then they will do the expansion after the media deal, but negotiated together with the media deal. I will tell you that I have heard reports that the conference is still evaluating 3 options. And that those 3 options are: 1 is to stay at 10 teams, 1 is to add 2 teams, and 1 is to go to 16 teams.
Adding 6.
And that the Pac-12 leadership will be in cooperation with the TV partners is evaluating the math of those 3 different options, and that we should not be. I'm told, again, this is not, we'll see, but I'm told that we should not be stunned to see any of those 3 options, but that those are probably the 3 options that the conference is looking at. So again, one would be to stay at 10 for the Pac-10, one would be to stay at 12 for the Pac-12, and one would be to finally realize Larry Scott's dream of the Pac-16. And supposedly there are a number of institutions, more than we would think, not all in the regions we would think, that are potentials. So we'll see.
Have to keep posted. Check it out.
Are there any other games or spots on people's schedules that we should highlight? Obviously, Wisconsin looking for revenge, but this time in the Palouse.
Yeah, Wisconsin and the Palouse is kind of Wisconsin. You guys would I didn't even notice that over there in the corner.
How long is that commute?
Wisconsin's going to the Palouse. That's going to be a good game.
Is that going to take them like 14 hours to get there? I was gonna say, is that going to take them 14 hours to get there after they fly and then get on the bus and then it takes?
Well, hopefully their plane won't tip over like USC's. No, they have that little airport. They fly. I think they fly into Lewiston, and then drive up like a half hour or whatever.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. You got 2 new Big Ten coaches that are actually going to have games scheduled. In the Pac-12 with Matt Rule in Nebraska playing at CU, and you've got Wisconsin going to mention like the Palouse with Luke Fickell. So we'll get to see these new coaches come into the Pac-12.
And to answer, Dave has a couple of questions. No, Dave, it wouldn't be the Pac-12 blowing up. It would be the Pac-12 adding a number of institutions that fit very well with its institutional goals. And then they fly. No, Dave, actually, the teams do not fly into Spokane. The teams typically fly into Lewiston or into Pullman. Typically into Lewiston, Idaho, which is like some of you guys don't know this. Washington State is actually some of you do from the murder situation with the University of Idaho. Washington State is right on the Idaho-Washington border, way out east, and so you land. Usually you land in like Lewiston, Idaho, which is like a little airport. They do charters into there, and it's really easy for the teams. It's a pain for the fans. So, like Dave said, for fans, they usually have to fly into Spokane and drive. I'll tell you guys something else that that strikes me looking here at our schedule. One of the things, and this happens in the SEC too. It happens in the Big Ten as well. But we have so many teams that are making phenomenal investments and phenomenal improvements in their teams. Just, I mean, really, really phenomenal improvement. And the problem is you come up against a math limitation. And we may do some stuff with this on a future show, but you have 2 teams play and somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. And in a Pac team winning 5 games this year is going to be absolutely different than a Pac team winning 5 games the year before last, when they were at their historic low. So, you're going to have like some good teams that lose 4 or 5 games, I think.
Yeah. And with so many good teams, I really do think it makes other teams harder to play, in the sense that, so I talked about Cal being in the middle of that murderer's row for SC, right? And how that kind of makes that game and that spot a little bit harder. But if you actually poke around and look where Cal plays people, there's like 4 or 5 instances against big schools where if that Cal team is any good, and I'm not saying like all of a sudden this Cal team's going to go on a tear and win 8 games or something, but if they're like good enough to be decent, there's like 3 or 4 spots for Oregon in between Utah and SC. For Oregon State in between Utah and UCLA. For Stanford, even though it's their rivalry game, so they're going to get up for it no matter what, in between Oregon State and Notre Dame. And then for UCLA after the SC game, which for UCLA fans is always like a fear of a letdown because it's like after the big rivalry game. And then again for SC in between Notre Dame, Utah, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. And then for Utah in between Oregon State and SC Oregon. So there's like, on one hand, it's like, okay, well, at least like they play the lesser team or whatever in between those games. But I feel like when one of those spots, play like they get overlooked, in that kind of situation where, they're the team that you're supposed to be in between all the other good teams, kind of like, UCLA playing Arizona last year kind of thing.
Yeah, no, it's like you think you can take a breather because it's Cal, but I think you pointed out earlier, Chris, it's the last time USC is going to be playing at Cal for who knows how long, and they'll have it ready for USC. There'll be a lot of vitriol, a lot of hate there. Another interesting point that I saw with the scheduling, there's 3 teams that play 3 teams in a row, Pac-12 teams in a row, that were ranked in the final top 25 last year. And that is ASU, Washington, and USC. If you look at ASU, they play at Utah, at UCLA, and then Oregon at the back end of their schedule. And you look at Washington, Washington has at USC versus Utah, and then in Corvallis against Oregon State. And then, USC, for all those fans out there, all the haters, I love you. I love the hate. Yes, this is our last year of the Pac-12, and I'm crying. I'm so sad. But to think that we have an easy schedule, USC, as you can see, plays home to Washington, at Oregon, and then home to UCLA. So there's 3 tough games right there. Only 3 teams have that scheduling. So guess what? The Pac-12 hates those 3 schools equally. And so should you.
Now, LBC, you seem to imply that the Pac-12 football department is run by someone more capable than I think they are.
Well, no, I just love.
You have better faith than I do, LBC.
No, well, everybody knows it's a Mickey Mouse show, and you just accept.
I figure the whole thing's run by SpongeBob SquarePants.
Right. I mean, they come out and say, "Hey, you're going to play Arizona on a Friday or a Saturday." We just accept that because we know that's how it is. And other schools have that same situation where you're going to play on a Friday or a Saturday because that's the contract that we have. And somebody was trying to tell me that USC is basically run this conference into the ground because we've tanked for the last 15 years. Come on, man. Know your football.
Kinda.
And I expect that from an Oregon fan because you started watching football 10 years ago. So
we really only tanked for the last 5 years.
Larry Scott tanked this conference. Okay, Larry Scott is sipping his Cristal on his yacht in the Mediterranean right now, laughing at all of us. Okay, because that's why you have a schedule, unlike other conferences, the other 4 Power 5 conferences, that give you an either or. You're playing either Friday or Saturday. Your conference championship game is on a Friday or a Saturday. Okay, that's not USC who tanked it. No, that's Larry Scott. Okay, that's why this conference is just blasphemous. And I can't wait to get the hell out. So there you go. There's the truth.
As always, UC Regent Gumby speaks the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, guys, this schedule is going to be interesting. I'm already excited for this season coming up. These are some games. We got Coach Prime. We've got new regime at ASU. Arizona's looking better. Oregon State found a quarterback. Stanford is now taking transfers and has a coach who knows how to win.
I'm going to ask each of you, what is the game that you're looking forward to seeing? It could be out of conference. It could be Pac-12 conference opponent. But what is the one game out of all these schedules that you're looking forward to seeing? Tony, start us off.
I'm looking forward to USC UCLA. One, because it's USC UCLA, and two, because I mean, unless we're in the championship game, that will be our last game in the Pac-12. I think that there's going to be a lot of rigmarole and excitement and emotion and history in that game. And I think that that's going to be really special. As well as the two before it. SC ends with Washington and Oregon and then UCLA. And I think there's a lot of history to that.
How about you, Tim?
I'm interested. I really have circled the early games, so I mean, I totally agree with Tony. It's going to be USC's farewell tour, and I think we're going to get everyone's best shot, especially when we're on the road. That will be all those games are going to be special to me just to watch them because it's it's the last go. But if I get outside my USC hat, I just keep circling that Utah Florida game. The rest of the country got so much wag and so much run because rising through a stupid pick in the end zone. And all of a sudden, it, just sank everything that was just the narrative. I think the Utes finally have to get off the slide and stop beating up the conference and actually win a big, meaningful game outside the conference. And that'll be an important game early on to correct the narrative from last year and to start this Pac-12 season off with a bang.
Chris, what about you?
I'm going to skip anything UCLA related on my answer, and I'm going to cheat on out of conference and say, Auburn coming to Berkeley, and then both of Utah's out of conference games for kind of the reasons Tim highlighted in my comment earlier, where that's first four of the first five for Utah is pretty rough. And seeing how they come out of that, but and then it's got a lot of Utah involved in it actually, because I think the conference game, at least early, because we can predict wherever we want, but it's harder to say later in the season where people actually are. But the Oregon State Utah game in week 5 in Corvallis is a really big, assuming Oregon State takes care of business out of conference and they go up to Pullman and they win, you're gonna have an Oregon State team sitting at 4-0 who looks at themselves as, we are a quarterback away from going to the conference title game. We're a dark horse playoff contender next year if things go right. That if they're 4-0 going into that game week 5 in Corvallis against Utah, it's a lot like that. It's a lot like that situation last year where they could have made huge shockwaves if they would have beat SC in Corvallis, and the program's going to kind of get a second chance early in Pac-12 play to put their flag down and say, we have arrived. And we're here to stay. Last year wasn't a fluke. I don't think it was at all. Personally, obviously, I was on the Beavs train the whole time. But that week 5 game of Oregon State Utah is going to be a huge one for the Beavs if they're where they want to be.
Solid analysis, Chris. That is a great point about Oregon State.
As always,
man. Gotta love it on the Pac-12 live chat show. Chris, bringing it. The game that I'm looking for, I'm not going to bring anything up USC, but I'm looking at Colorado, Coach Prime, going to TCU, first game of the season. You have arguably the bottom dweller for the last few years of the Pac-12, Colorado, with a new coach, going to play Sonny Dykes and his squad that were last seen getting boat raced in the national championship game. So they finished number 2 in the country. It's the first game. Coach Prime is going to have the game plan. He's going to have his team ready. He's going to want to make a statement. And it's very intriguing because you've got this back and forth with, the Big 12 thinks they're better than the Pac-12. The Pac-12 thinks they're bigger than the Big 12. We both don't play defense. One plays better defense slightly than the other. One plays better offense, whatever. You're going back and forth. But you've got basically the best team last year in the Big 12. I know Kansas State, much respect. You beat TCU in the Big 12 championship game. But what I'm talking about is TCU won a playoff game, made it to the national championship. And now you're going to go against, Coach Prime, who's coming from, an FCS school and has, well, I think the last I saw, 22 or 23 transfers. So that's an intriguing game to see what TCU is going to look like without Max Duggan, and what Coach Prime's first iteration of Colorado Buffalo football is going to look like.
And Jason, thank you for your super chat. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about that next week when we do our awards show. I mean, my off the cuff bet, I'd say SC, but who knows? We'll see. What about you guys? Anybody with a quick guess on who your early front horse is?
Most likely USC be the favorite going in, but anyone from Washington, UCLA, Oregon, possibly even the Beavers could win this thing. It's gonna be lights out. Utah, it's gonna be interesting to see if UCLA can reload and see what Utah looks like next year. But I really do think that the Beavers and the Huskies and the Trojans are going to be firing away, and I think they'll be the early favorites.
Too early to tell, man. I'll have to take a look at things, but it's going to be a great race, real exciting, and I am going to be going. I've never been to Autzen Stadium, and I'm going to go. And I'm debating whether or not to bring bodyguards with me because all their fine fans and their hospitality. But I'm going to be sampling a lot of IPA that trip, and
it never rains at Autzen Stadium, I hear.
Looking forward to seeing my Trojans close it out against the Ducks. Nothing better.
I'll start by saying I think it's way too early, and I think you got to ask me in June after after this
They're both chickening out. Hold on. Portal. I can't let you guys chicken out. We all know it's too early. There could be guys coming in through the portal over the summer. Like, we got Addison over the summer at USC. I know things can change.
Right, exactly.
The dude threw a super chat. He said, hey, make a guess. It's just a guess. No one's going to hold you to it.
Okay, we'll bring it next week. We'll bring it.
I'll say it right now. Oregon State.
I'm leaning that way too. I'm leaning Beavs.
And guys, hold on. We've got Gixxer Squid. Gixxer Squid is the man. Thank you, Gixxer Squid. This is a question for LBC.
All right.
What Gixxer Squid is the man of the hour. Thank you, Gixxer. That truly that does a tremendous amount to help support the channel. Thank you for that.
Let me read this one, Gixxer. Thank you very much. My goodness. What beer, ABV, alcohol by volume, for those that are not in the know, what beer, alcohol by volume, would you rate USC's schedule? Love the content. I trust LBC's opinion. Hey, thank you very much, Gixxer. What in terms of ABV, the schedule, this is kind of backloaded, so I got to go. This is like a double IPA because, you kind of sip a little bit on the front end, but bam, you get the hops banging on your taste buds on the back end. So I'm going to go, not a Pliny, but I'm going to go a double IPA, 7.8% ABV. Not too bad.
And Gixxer Squid, I'm going to give you a little different piece. So there's a game right there. USC at Cal. And we don't know what the future schedules are going to be for USC, but that's the last San Francisco weekender scheduled going forward. And the San Francisco weekender as a freshman at age 18 is where I was introduced to Goldschlager, like in the most freshman way possible. So I'm giving our final Pac-12 schedule and that Berkeley road trip on October 28th. There is going to be some freshman on that last trip who's going to learn about Goldschlager and have some really inappropriate behavior and somehow make it to Memorial Stadium anyway. So I'm rating the APV as Goldschlager, whatever that is.
Tony, I thought you were going to say something else because on my freshman year,
I'm sparing you all the stories of that debaucherous weekend.
well, I'll let you know because I thought you were going there, and I'm going to go there.
Go there.
Freshman year,
I'll tell you guys later afterwards.
At
I'll tell you
USC.
in the post show.
I was introduced to O'Farrell's Theater, which I don't think is no longer standing. But that was something I will never forget. You cannot unsee that. But there you go. I thought you were going to go there, Tony. I just went there.
Yeah.
Question,
I was.
question for you guys. Tony and Rick, and actually,
you could argue that I was a sweet, innocent boy from Michigan until I went to San Francisco.
LBC and jump in, Chris, as well, because you know a lot about Cal. So USC, and you just made me think of this with the scheduling going into the
and to everyone criticizing it's a bad booze. Yes, it's a bad booze. That's part of the point. It's the most 18-year-old freshman thing there is. Sorry, Tim.
I forgot what I was saying. Sorry.
Something about.
Oh no! Shut up. Sorry, Tim. My bad.
Something about scheduling. San Francisco.
Cal.
Tim. You were making much better points than I was.
So moving into
as always.
Moving into the Big Ten, my question would be: is the Cal weekend, the weekender, right, with Stanford or Cal every year we're going up north. Is there any chance you think USC keeps Cal and Stanford and maybe alternating somewhat on our schedule? I mean, you have UCLA, and that's the thing of UCLA, and then that leaves only one more out of conference game. Do you think there's a shot at that? I've heard that kicked around a little bit.
Yes, it would not surprise me. It would surprise me not at all, particularly if USC kept scheduling Stanford and UCLA kept scheduling Cal.
Is that going to be just a home only game that we pay them for with our Big 12, Big 10 money, the Calamony?
Aren't you already paying them?
Right. So we just get, we use that money. That money goes towards a home game for UCLA every year.
I think here's what you do. You tell them when you want to pick up your Calamony check, you show up at the Rose Bowl with the team. Yeah, you pick it up in Pasadena with your team.
And then David Greenshield, thank you for the 199
Thank you,
donation. Could you see Dion taking Colorado to a bowl game? And my short answer is no.
No.
I don't see them winning 6 games. I think they'll be competitive, but if you remember, we looked at the beginning of that schedule. If you look at it right now, TCU, Nebraska, or possibly they find a way to rally against Colorado State, but then Oregon, USC. I just don't, then UCLA and your Utah. I just don't. And the Beavs,
they could be much improved and still only win like 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that they're an example of the fact that like this coming Colorado team a year and a half ago could have won 7 games easy. Now they may win 3, they may win 5. I don't know. I don't think it's impossible. It's not impossible. I would say it might be unlikely, but I don't think it's impossible.
To go to a bowl game? They're not going to a bowl game. Take a look at the last 2 games of that schedule.
Tide Guy has an answer for us here too.
Yeah, there you go. You're right, Tide Guy. That's their only chance. But
we love you, Tide Guy, by the way. Tide Guy's awesome, by the way. If you guys are not subscribed to Tide Guy's channel, you totally should be.
Look at Colorado's last 2 games. They got to go to the Palouse on a Friday night. There you go. There's that Pac-12 quirk. Gotta love it. And in fact, Colorado plays on 2 Friday nights. And then then they got to back that up, and they got to finish at Utah. So
right. I mean, if you go through their entire schedule, it's really hard to find 6 wins. Even if you say, like, I'm not going to take them against the team that was just in the championship game on the road. Let's even say they beat Nebraska and Colorado State. I'm not taking them in either of the next 2. You give them Arizona State and Stanford and Arizona. That's 5 right there. Who's the 6th? I don't know.
And you're really giving those, right? Some of those are definitely at best 50-50 games.
Right.
But here's remember too with TCU, it's entirely possible Kendall Briles ends up in jail before the season. So who knows? Some municipal Fort Worth might have stronger feelings about sexual assault than Waco and Fayetteville. Who knows? Who knows? They got Kendall Briles. Gubby says the first alimony check is going to be used to pay for new dirt on Tightwad. Oh, I like it. No, it's going to be, there's so many good games, guys. I mean, you guys in the chat, tell us what game are you guys most looking forward to? And what's a game on here that looks interesting that's a surprise? You know, one that maybe you guys didn't know about before. I agree with you, Connor. Connor Johnson says that he thinks it's hard to find 5. You know, I don't think they're going to, but I don't bet against Coach Prime.
Well,
I think he's awesome.
They're going to win a game they shouldn't win. That's just going to be because of Coach Prime.
Yeah.
You give them that schedule, they're gonna have an upset, maybe 2, but they're not going to win 6. There's no way. I see 4-8 for CU. That's mainly because of their out-of-conference schedule.
While we wait for you guys to tell us about your favorite games, let's answer this from Charles. He says, who does the Pac add an expansion? We already talked about this a little bit. They may add 2 teams. It would probably be San Diego State and SMU. They may add no teams, or they may add 6 teams. That is not outside the realm of possibility. And everyone just keyboard warriors. Guys, it's actually not outside the realm of possibility. I would say it's probably not as likely as adding 2, but there are people looking at that.
Chris, if you had an unlimited budget and you could go to one of UCLA's road games, which one would it be this year?
This year?
Yes.
I've been to Corvallis before, and that was actually like a pretty fun trip. I've been there for a UCLA game. I could see myself doing that again, or Utah, because I've never been there, and I feel like that would be a pretty crazy experience. Or I would just go to San Diego State because I get to have a week in the sun and enjoy it and get out of this cold New York weather. But probably Utah, because I've never done it before. Of all of the places that are road games on that list, it's the only one I haven't been to.
Cool.
And Jason asks Tide Guy, can we have some of your recruits? And Tide Guy points out, wait a year, a quarter will be in the transfer portal.
There you go.
I like that. Thank you, Tide Guy. Oh, too funny. Oh, all right. Well, do we want? I don't know. Is there anybody in the chat? Do you guys want to call in? Sorry, we went actually further than we expected. We'd love to hear what you guys think. Let's put the link in the chat. And if there's anybody who wants to call in, we want to hear what you think about the schedule. And as we wait for that, should we talk about the awards?
Give them a little sneak peek.
All right. Next week, guys, we are going to have the Pac-12 awards, but we want some input from you guys tonight. So LBC and Tim, you guys want to take it away?
Tim, tell them kind of the format, what to expect.
Well, next week we are going to go over whatever traditional awards, and we'd like for you guys, if you have any suggestions for us, for players or coaches, to go ahead and leave them in the comment section after the show. But we're going to be giving out your traditional awards like Coach of the Year, Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, maybe Freshman of the Year, and then we're going to have some transfer portal guys. Who are the best defensive and offensive transfer portal guys? So we're interested.
And we're going to have special awards too.
Well, we're leaving those. That's a little Easter egg we're leaving for the end. We're not divulging those. We just want to hear what you guys have for the more traditional awards. So
we have consulted with the biggest. We have consulted with the biggest minds of all of the conferences for them to share what they have told us are their core values in the award that they wanted to present.
So those are our special thank you to all of our listeners. You'll have to tune in to watch those. But if
They
you
are,
want
there are
to,
there
go
are
ahead.
some of the awards are in honor of very special people in our college football community. So be ready. All right, we got a caller, guys. We got Larry Pilgrim here and Jeff Grimm. Guys, welcome to the show.
Howdy, folks.
What's happening, guys?
Hey, I wanted
guys-
to say, you guys were talking about matchups for next year. I think a game not many people will think about, but I think will be a heck of a game will be Arizona State versus Oklahoma State.
That's a good
I think
game.
I think I have less faith in Arizona State maybe than granted it is there. I would love to see them pull that off. I don't know enough about Oklahoma State. Maybe you do, that you can educate me. Because when I think of Oklahoma State, I always think of this team that's like just inside the top 10 or is like a top 15 team, but never quite good enough to like win the Big 12. But like always like pretty solid, and pretty solid program. And Arizona State's still kind of coming out of the Herm fog, so to speak.
Right, but I think with Oklahoma State, they kind of took a step back this year. I think people would agree.
Did they?
This was not kind of the Oklahoma State of old. And so it'll kind of tell us, is Oklahoma State going to be back, or are they going to struggle against Arizona State?
I like it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. And guys, by the way, lots of questions on best and worst uniform. We're definitely gonna have to talk about worst uniform.
Tide guy, I think you're
Go ahead,
right.
And,
one more in my mind.
Tide
what?
guy, I think you're right on that game. There's a lot of question marks for both squads. The game's in Tempe. Oklahoma State, last I counted, 16 players in the transfer portal, including some key players. Spencer Sanders, their 4-year quarterback, in the transfer portal. Mason Cobb, one of the team leading tacklers at middle linebackers, now at SC. So again, I think they came off a 7-5 season. That would be disappointing for Mike Gundy in his tenure there at Oklahoma State. And then you got Dillingham. Dillingham, he's going to want to show out. This is going to be a major, major opportunity for them to really get their student body and alumni behind the program. Because even though Oklahoma State's not the Oklahoma State of old, it is a Power 5. It's a Big 12 school, and it can create some early momentum for Dillingham's new squad in Tempe.
Yeah, because if Arizona State could win that game, think of what that could do momentum-wise for the rest of the year. I mean, because most people, even when the season starts, is not going to think Arizona State could pull that one out.
Right. Yep, not many people are going to give Arizona State a chance in that one.
Right, and you guys know perfectly well, playing in Arizona State isn't the easiest also. I mean, there's something about, going to Arizona State, going to Arizona, that is difficult sometimes.
Especially if you're Washington.
Yeah.
You guys, they haven't won there since 2001.
Oh,
And they've been to the playoffs.
Right.
And they haven't won there since 2001.
Well, one big advantage Arizona State usually has at home is the heat, but I don't think that the guys from Oklahoma State will have a problem with that.
To whoever said, where will you fit SMU and San Diego State into the schedule? Right there where it says UCLA and USC. That's where they'll fit in to the future schedule. Very easy to slot them in.
A school I wish that the Pac-12 would pick up. Now, I know they won't because of academics or that, but one school that I've always appreciated, and I don't think gets enough attention, I like Colorado State. It's a beautiful campus. They
Beautiful
usually
new
have
stadium.
a decent team.
A beautiful new stadium, too.
Yeah, and I mean,
Brand new.
Colorado State is actually, has had some really decent teams.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. And there's a couple AAU schools floating out there. One of them whose name will not be spoken right now. Still, it's too soon. We'll see. We'll see. Gumby
So-
wants Notre Dame. Good luck on that.
I see.
Larry, what do you think about the Ute schedule here? These are some good games.
Yeah, we've got a pretty brutal schedule this year. It looks like there's going to be a lot of cannibalism again in the conference. There's a lot of tough road games for all the top contenders when you look at it. You know, USC's got to go up there to Oregon. That one's going to be a tough one. There's just it's going to be, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's getting out without 2 conference losses. So may end up in another situation with tiebreakers. This is going to be an interesting year for sure.
Now, I have a
No
question.
Cal
I have
Matt
a
makes
question
point
for
out like
Rick.
this. Oh
Can I
yeah,
ask
go ahead.
Rick a question.
Go for it.
USC, are they learning from Alabama? I see that you got last week bye. Is that kind of like Bama's third Saturday in November cupcake?
No. So
Okay.
that wasn't our choice. BYU bailed on the USC game. I don't know what the reason is. Maybe because
They're new. They joined the Big 12.
yeah. There you go. So we had to find another game, and we found San Jose State, and San Jose State is also playing Hawaii. And when that happens, you know San Jose State plays 13 games, and you get the 0 week opportunity. So that's when that game was scheduled.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
Yeah, but your real issue though, with that tie guy is the fact that you get that cupcake right before your home stretch, maybe 1 or 2 really big games, right? And you get your rivals.
Yeah,
There's
we
a
always do it. Yeah, right
USC
before
that's
Auburn.
going to be nasty.
but Ty guy,
And the other thing, if USC is not in the championship game, which is certainly possible, then that bye does you no good because it's just 1 more week of Christmas break.
Right.
But Ty guy, just know this, that is the reason why, and I think Wilner alluded to it, but don't take my word because I'm a USC guy. People hate us, and they'll say, why did the Pac-12 give USC 2 byes and everybody else got 1? You know, there you go. So
It's the Big
Rick,
12's fault.
I had
No,
already read up.
yeah, I know.
read up why you guys got the buy, and I understand. I just wanted to poke a little fun at you because
Oh,
everybody
no,
makes fun of me.
but it's great because all of the uneducated fans will look at that. Hey, how come USC got 2 byes? Which is fine. I don't care. Bring on the hate because I love it better that way. I do. Don't deal with facts. Deal with emotions and hatred. It's because we ruined this contract. This conference. We lied. We lied to people, both face the the commissioner, and we took money and we're spoiled. Yes, we are. You know what? And we're loving it. So, adios, mofos.
That's right.
I ain't holding anything back. We're in purgatory, baby. We are in purgatory now. All gloves are off. Loving it. Can't wait for 2023.
All right, guys, I got to stop out of here, but I'll still be in the chat room. But thanks for having me, and great show as always.
All right.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for joining us,
Yeah.
Side Guy.
Hey, Tony, I've got a question for you. You know our friend Tar Hill?
Who?
That Tar Hill guy, he's a little off schedule. We've talked about him before, and you said he's not a University of North Carolina fan, but the community college trying to get in there. Anyway,
Probably.
I asked him a question today, and I find you an intellect, and I think you can see things from a lot of different points. Choice A or B, is he a guy that would mutilate a cat or die with 100 of them in his house?
Why not both?
Right. But if you had to pick one of those, it's kind of hard, right?
I say both.
Okay. All right. Me too. All right. I asked him that question. He couldn't answer. So anyway.
A little from column A and a little from column B.
Okay. So, hey, Rick.
Yes, sir.
All right. You can't throw shade on Utah for losing to Penn State when you lost the big game too, bud.
That's true. That is true.
But
Right.
if we tackled anybody, we would have won.
But here's the thing. I can throw shade.
Please that loud.
And I did.
You got. I mean, the
And I'll
better
tell you
team
why.
lost.
I'll
The better
tell you-
team lost. We all know
tell-
that.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. It's because you're back to back. You've beaten USC. You know, you lost to a very good Ohio State team, and rightly so. I didn't believe you guys were going to win that Rose Bowl 2 years ago. But to have the kind of season you did, Kyle Whittingham's in his 18th year. He is the dean of the Pac-12 coaches. He's the greatest coach that nobody knows about in America. And you go out there and you poop the bed against a Florida team that was boat raced by Oregon State. Now, granted, yes, it was a different team, but that was a national stage. And
Right, but you do you know what that Florida team went to Tennessee,
Yeah.
and took them to the wire at Tennessee. So to say Florida was a bad team, you know, we could say USC wasn't that good because they barely beat Oregon State. It's just Oregon was a boom or bust team. I mean, they played a lot of teams tough, and then they played like garbage. We got a good version. We lost. We should have won that game.
I don't
We
think
lost
you
it.
compare that because that's a 6-7 Florida team. Okay, USC was 11-3, so you know you can. All I'm saying is yes, okay, whatever. But it's a national stage. It's perception. Yes,
Right.
you're fighting BYU to be the best team in Utah. You're fighting USC and Oregon to be Pac-12 champions and the best in the Pac-12. And now you've got an 18-year head coach, and you're trying to make a name on a national stage. Whether you choose to believe that or not, that's what it is. You know.
Yeah. Well, as far as being the best team in Utah, they've beat BYU 9 out of the last 10 times. So that's not even. I don't know why that's not even a conversation.
But
maybe to you it is.
No, it's kind of like, okay, you graduated that step. Okay.
Right.
And so the next step is to win the Pac-12. You've done that back to back with the same head coach and the same quarterback. Granted, you lost your first Rose Bowl. That's fine. But you're going against a Penn State team that didn't have any top 25 wins, and it's James Franklin. And frankly, they didn't have as good as a team as they did 6 years ago with when the USC beat them with Clay Helton.
Right.
Come on. And so you lost that game. Hey, I understand Rising got hurt. It's all part of the game. That's why, you know, but it is what it is. So now you got the chance. You're going to go out on a national stage and play Florida at home, and you're going to go play BYU. Win the national game to get respect.
Right. Well, let me give you a little information. Utah has been punching above their weight class for 20 years. For 20 years. They played USC, top 10 roster 2 years ago. Oregon, top 10 roster. Florida, top 14 roster. Ohio State, top 3 roster. Penn State.
Bad news, Larry.
Yeah.
You're not punching above your weight. You're now in the heavyweight.
You took total. Utah has.
No, Larry. You guys are no longer punching above your weights. You're in the heavyweights.
You've been in the
We just now, for the first time, broke the top 30 in recruiting, Tony. We've had 2 top 30 classes for 2 years. We just now broke the top 30. We've been competing against teams who have 4 stars at every position practically. We've got 3 stars and 2 stars. That's what I mean by we've been punching above our weight class.
No, Larry. I'm sorry, Larry. I wasn't teasing. I was teasing you into complimenting. Like,
oh, right.
Because
so no,
that's
no,
what
it's
I was
just,
saying. I was saying
I
you
get
guys,
what Rick is saying, and I
you're
cannot
the Pac-12
argue
champs.
with Rick. To take the next step, you got to step up and be consistent and win the games that you should win. There is no disagreement there at all. It's just, you know, he's been building the program, and like I just said, we just for the first time in program history are in the top 30 in recruiting. And look what we've done for 10 years, being from 30 to 50. So
yeah, Utah's awesome.
That it's hard to get where USC is or ever will. I don't know if Utah is capable of ever reaching that. Just they don't have the advantages. But
do you want the easy path? You just stop tackling entirely.
Oh, that'll come in time. If you got just don't get rid of Grinch before this last year, please.
Yeah,
just
don't
keep him one
tackle
more
anyone.
year.
That's the easiest way to copy us.
Yeah. So no, I there's a lot I can't disagree with you, LBC. Our top 3 production guys, we didn't have them. You know, we don't have Caleb Williams, who can throw a damn dart 50 yards on one leg, who's throwing to 4 or 5 of the most talented receivers in college football. We don't have that. You take out the few weapons we have, and then you take Cam Rising. I mean, it's just it was going to be a tough game with what we had there. When he went down, it was like, oh boy, you know.
Larry, in all honesty, it's like if you've ever had a coach, if a coach says nothing to you, he could care less about you. If he's in there busting your chops and busting your balls, it's because he cares. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I like Utah. I like Kyle Whittingham. I've watched what he's built for the past 18 years. And you're right. You know, now they're starting to get better recruiting classes. But he is the guy who does more with less. And so, believe it or not, I want you
in fact,
to succeed. They are a great program. And I wanted you guys to justify your program by beating Penn State in the Rose Bowl. After we lost, I went on record inside the hotel wishing the Utes fans live, you know, congratulations, go win the Rose Bowl, because that was your next step. And so I know there's a lot of Utah fans that are full of themselves and think that they've arrived and that, you know, USC is crap. And you know what? Hey man, you're new to the game. Don't diss us, right? We've built.
Oh
yeah. So that's the thing. It's like, if you want to be recognized and take that next step, there's things you have to do. That's all I'm saying. And I want you guys to succeed because I like your program.
We're all big Ute supporters.
So you do these certain things, you're not going to even be you're not even being a glimmer or a thought on the national level, because hey, you can't win the big game in their eyes.
Yeah. It takes time to build. It takes time to build, and they've been doing it. And I mean, it's a mountaintop, you know. And so they're doing it the right way. So,
and they're winning.
Yeah, they're winning. It's, you know, like I say, it's tough. Whittingham is, you know, I know I've, you know, been to a lot of his fundraisers, and he's a great guy, you know.
And we don't have any sympathy for you as the 2-time defending Pac-12 champions.
That's right.
Well, last year was one rough way to get there, and I agree. You know, we get pissed about, you know, such the slow. We start slow. Yeah, we start slow, and it pisses us off, you know. But it is what it is, and you know, like, we're young. We're still even going to be young next year. So thank God, you know, Kuthie's coming back and Rising's coming back, or this would be rough with that schedule. I mean, this would be
to de-regala, why is no one worried about Washington? We've already talked about Washington. I'm terrified of Washington. They're going to be a team this year.
Yeah, they're good.
But
they're really good.
The Utes
I'm not worried about them because UCLA doesn't play them.
And
I'm worried about Washington. I'm worried about them totally.
Well, you know, what was funny is I said, if they try to expose Hubert, our free safety, because USC knew our weakness and exploited him. Penn State did the same thing. That guy busted a coverage again there. He busted that run. The 2 longest plays, those 2 bust out 80-yard plays, we had him 3rd and long. Hubert gave those up. He's gone. Our missionary stud safety's coming back. So thank goodness. I don't have to watch that guy play free safety anymore. Just like, who's that number 7 for you guys? Your safety, your free safety last year.
Kalen Bullock.
Yeah.
Kalen Bullock.
He got embarrassed by Utah. Tackling. He was the worst tackler you guys had in the championship game, and it wasn't even close.
Yep.
Is he returning?
He is returning.
Oh boy. How do you guys feel about that?
He also is one of the top defensive backs or safeties in the nation with 5 interceptions. So I think Clark Phillips, the third, had 6. So
Yeah.
he would have had
All
6.
right.
He would have had 6. I don't want to pick that scab again, Larry, but he had the 6 in the end zone against Utah at Rice Eccles with that phantom roughing the passer push.
Hey, we got a weaker one the week before against UCLA.
Oh, yeah.
We had them. We were down by 1. We stopped them. Our guy didn't even push him to the ground, and we got called.
Yeah.
So
well, I know. I'm just saying he would have had.
I
6.
know that's a rough game, and
But you kicked our ass, Larry. You kicked our ass twice.
I don't know how the hell you guys played us that tight at Rice Eccles. Well, I do know Caleb did get hurt. That played a role. So
Come on, Larry.
little,
let's keep it real, Larry. It played a little more than a little role.
On to
on that note, after that ridiculousness, we do have to move on real quick, Larry. Any final thoughts on Utah's schedule here?
It's rough, the same as you guys, and yeah. I mean, we get you miss Oregon State, but you get Notre Dame, so it's not like your schedule's any easier. And your last 6, good luck, fellas. That's a rough stretch. That's a rough stretch.
Hey, well, thank you for calling in. We're glad to have you.
All right, glad I could stay awake this week.
Hey, we'll take it. Coffee helps.
All right. Okay.
Talk to you soon. All right, coming in, we've got Will ND and David. Guys, welcome to the chat.
What's up, everyone?
Hello, guys. I was going to say thank you to Larry and his Utes for allowing my Buckeyes to make the playoffs. I should have given him his flowers for that.
Yeah, anytime you
All
can
right,
backdoor
let's
in,
take him out
anytime you
right
can backdoor in is a great
now.
time.
Deactivate and go. No, I'm just kidding. Just teasing.
Well, I mean,
Hey, we're glad to have you, by the way.
Yeah.
It's good to lose
see
to
you
your
guys.
rival by a couple of touchdowns and then backdoor in. That's you should thank him.
Hey, you know what? In an imperfect year of college football there, Tim, you have to take it. You know what I mean? It wasn't.
I got you.
I mean, I only wish that field goal would have gone the other way, obviously, or that whole entire fourth quarter. But, it is what it is.
Pac-12, what do you got for me?
Yeah. Well, by the way, love the quarterback play coming back. I said last year you guys always gave me 08, kind of Big 12 vibes. That year that the Big 12 had Graham Harrell and McCoy and Bradford. You had all those crazy games.
That's a fun year.
Yeah, that was a really fun year. I was going to say that the SC schedule looks like, are you guys looking 6-0 right off the top of the rip? You guys feeling pretty confident about that?
They don't win those 6. It's gonna be a long year. Let's put it that way.
If we don't win those 6, there will be panic in Troy.
It seems like George Kliavkoff really wants you guys to. They want you guys to be able to rest your stars for most of those games, man. They really want you guys coming in nice, healthy.
I think Chris nailed it. I think that I think it's it's kind of what other conferences do. We actually have some brains there scheduling where we're not going to beat the crap out of each other in week 3 and 4. So you're actually going to have a bunch of Pac-12 teams that will be ranked somewhere in top 15, top 10, because you don't have USC playing Oregon or Oregon playing Utah in like week 3 or 4. There's no point for that. So I do like the way the schedule sets up. I wish they would have thrown a little, maybe just bye here or there, or maybe throw Colorado or Arizona in there between that murders. We do have Cal. Sorry, TBM. But I mean, it just those last 3 are a killer 3 stretch right there.
Watch
Will,
out.
that
Cal game might be in the same way that Corvallis was a pick for me last year with you guys, but the Beavs didn't pull it off. There's going to be a game on one of these schedules where Cal beats someone they totally shouldn't, just by the virtue of where they're sitting.
The problem is, though, Chris, is that our one weakness is defense. You know what your weakness is? Your offense. So I think all those 2 things will, no matter what, are going to balance each other out. You guys lost a lot on offense.
It's okay. Cal has 18 running backs and nothing else. So they'll just hand it off to Jaden Ott until his legs fall off, and then they'll hand it off to the kid from Oregon until his legs fall off, and then they'll hand it off to the third transfer that they got. And they might only gain, 2.5 yards of play. But if you do that 4 times in a row, that's 10 yards. All right. Anyway, sorry, I cut you off, David.
We
No,
were
that's
going to
okay.
thank Matt Ritson for Matt. Thank you very much for your super chat. We really appreciate it. He says, "What worse, Stanford and Cal football or basketball? Both. Yeah, that it's a rough year in the Bay Area.
Cal basketball is in like 10th or 9th place actually in conference, even though they've only won 3 games.
It's not the
Ooh,
Montgomery
they're
years
up to
anymore.
like 10th place. That's pretty impressive. And Larry, thank you. And Larry, thank you for calling in. Go Utes and back the pack. Go Utes. And Ute fans, like when I said, by the way, you're there. You guys are the 2-time defending conference champions. And I know, like, your recruiting continues to build and your program continues to skyrocket, but Ute fans, you guys are killing it. You guys are awesome. Like, kudos to the Utes. And Eddie Chase, Eddie, we agree with you. Yeah, those last 5 games are going to be wild, but those last 5 games are going to have some history to them. It's going to be pretty cool too. What do you guys think?
Hey, if you want to be good, you got to play the best. Just play the games as they're dealt, and if you're good enough, you'll find a way. So I wouldn't want to
be
have
the man. You got to
way.
beat the man.
That's right. I love that schedule. Let's do it.
Yeah. Will,
so,
are
David,
you going
what were you
to
going to say before I interrupted you?
No, that's okay. I was just curious. Will, are you going to SC and Ohio State next year in South
I
Bend, or
know
are you
me and
just
my
one of the
dad are
two?
going to. Me and my dad are for sure going to SC. I'm gonna try. I know Buckeye Mike wants to go to the game against OSU, so I really want to go to both.
God, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Sam Hartman excitement, right? Right, Will?
This is the most excited I've ever been for a Notre Dame football team, 2023.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
right. You're getting Ohio State and USC at
And Clemson.
Oh, and well, Clemson's there, but you're getting Notre Dame. I mean, you're getting Ohio State and USC at Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
God, when does that ever happen? That's
awesome.
That's spectacular.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Will, wait, can I tell you, Will, you are one of my favorite moments of this football season. There was the night that Notre Dame lost to Marshall. While Georgia Southern beat Nebraska. And you were basically in tears over Marshall, yet so happy for Clay Helton.
Yeah, I was happy for Clay.
It was a riot. You were like, I'm so happy for Clay Helton. Anyway, it was a riot. It cannot be described to anyone who didn't see the. It was, I think it was like on a non-broadcast stream after a game, but it was one of my favorite moments of the season.
Tony, were you happy for Clay Helton, or are you ever happy for Clay Helton?
I like Clay Helton a lot, actually. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a good coach. He was just in a situation he was never going to be able to succeed. It was just a convergence of events that are, very impossible. Just, you would think impossible. There wasn't a better solution. He wasn't the right solution, but there wasn't he was the best thing that they could do. And they did it.
Champion, build the statue. Rose Bowl champion, build the statue.
Rose Bowl champion.
I'm just glad that Ohio State was able to break the streak against USC by beating that Sam Darnold team that year in the Cotton Bowl. So that made me very happy.
It doesn't work the first 7 times. You might get lucky the 8th time, and you did. Good job, Ohio State.
Tim, I still say that game in 2009, Tressel just, whatever the bed in the 4th quarter, but that's neither here nor there. And that was not. That was
just a great freshman Matt Barkley marching down the field with rest in peace, Joe McKnight, shredding your defense
team. Average SC team, Tim. That was one of the weaker teams of the Carroll era, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably was. And we walked to the shoe and came away with a W.
You did. I will say this, by the way, is Bo Nix on the 10-year college plan? Is he going to get Social Security and pension? How long has he been playing college football, by the way?
This is going to be his 6th year. No, 5th year. This is going to be his 5th year because he was.
But Oregon does have a kid that is in his 8th or 9th year, actually.
Yeah, because this is his last year because he got the COVID year. He's started 4 years, so he's going to be a 5-year starter in college football, which is crazy.
Well, take a look at it. The transfer portal has benefited benefited the emergence or reemergence, I should say, of the Pac-12. That and recent coaching hires with DeBoer, Dan Lanning, Lincoln
Yeah.
Riley, now Coach Prime. But you look at Washington State, they brought in Cam Ward. He's a transfer from Incarnate Word. And Jaden DeLora goes to Arizona. Washington brings in Penix. Utah, Cam Rising was a Texas player. He transferred a few years back to Utah. You got obviously Caleb Williams.
Will, plug your ears. You got more that went from Notre Dame to Oregon down to UCLA.
There you go. So that's kind of a transfer before the signing. And then you got DJ at Oregon State. Like you'd mentioned, David, you've got Bo Nix going to Oregon from the SEC. You got Shadir Sanders going to Colorado. And ASU. Who's at ASU? They just brought
Drew Pine.
Yeah, there you go, Drew Pine. So
Drew Pine.
it's
5-star, right? 5-star Drew Pine.
But you take a look at it. That is college.
Yeah, he was a high recruit.
That is college.
Here's another question for you guys, just real quick, and I know we got to wrap up in a minute.
Sure.
That USC Notre Dame game where USC's awful defense made Drew Pine look like a hero. Is that the difference between Drew Pine going to Arizona State and Drew Pine going to Colgate or like Merrimack College?
Possibly. I mean, hey man, if it doesn't work out for Drew and Tempe, at least he has the women. I'll say that.
It's very true. Or he can go to Brown.
Hey, I gotta ask: was Washington the quietest 11-2 football team you've ever seen in your life last year?
No one talked about them. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
That Arizona State loss probably cost them a shot, maybe at the playoffs. So I mean, that's why they lost that game and was like, ooh, they're just building steam,
Yeah.
And the narrative about the Pac-12 was, Pac-12. But yeah, they had an amazing season, and just that one game was enough to just take all the air out of the sail.
Their turnaround, USC's turnaround. There's so many turnarounds. Anyway, we gotta wrap up. David, any final thoughts?
All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna love the quarterback duels as I mentioned in the Pac-12 this year. I'm gonna be betting those Pac-12 overs that I did so well on this year. Legalized gambling in Ohio. Woo. Really excited about that.
Nice.
So I will be partaking in some of those wagers as we get towards the college football season. And Tony Goldschlager, not good, my friend.
Oh, no, so not good. But
Bad
so
booze.
18-year-old on their first trip to San Francisco.
Yes. I was a fan of Jägermeister at one time, so don't judge.
we will spare broadcasting everyone the details of those 18-year-old San Francisco trips. I will tell you guys one quick laugh on that. The only story I will tell you, when I got my wisdom teeth out, I don't know, junior year or whatever, my mom told me, so when you're under anesthetic, you told me stories from college. And I said, oh, like in a panic. And she looked at me and she said, don't ever do that again.
Wow.
And we've never had that discussion again. Anyway, thank you, David. We'll talk to you soon.
For the best.
Thanks,
See you
David.
guys.
Thanks,
Take
David.
care.
We are getting ready to wrap up, but he just called in, so we're going to give 2 minutes to Connor Johnson anyway. Connor, we're cutting you in anyway because we love you.
Sorry, late join.
Hey, it's always a pleasure. You got 2 minutes. We like having you.
Y'all were having too much fun without me talking about all these other teams.
You should have called in sooner. You guys have some good games here. We got the UC Davis is a little bit of an eye roll, but you got San Diego State. You got San Jose State there. You could be San Diego State's second Pac-12 game.
Would that be their home opener for the Pac-12? Oh no, we have to go to San Jose State. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, you go to San Jose State. You have two
USC
San
went
Francisco
down
trips.
For the second year in a row, we're going to a Mountain West school. Like, how does that make sense?
Well, but this time you're going to San Francisco. That's a cool trip to go to.
I might drive down to one of those San Francisco games. But hey, the big topic in the chat.
Avoid the Hyatt with a bottle of Goldschlager if you're 18. I'm just advice.
Okay, will do. The big topic is who's gonna it's just gonna cannibalize themselves again. And I know it's biased, but I really think that we might have the best chance to get through the schedule because we avoid USC and we get Utah at home. Obviously, Oregon on the road at the end, back-to-back Washington, Oregon. That's where it's tough. But we play our best ball at the end of the year. See Florida, see Oregon this year.
Right. Outside of that end of the season game against Oregon, right? Like all of your harder Pac-12 games, at least projected, right? We never know how it goes. Are like all at home.
Yeah, I mean Arizona and Colorado are toss-ups back-to-back on the road. Those are real toss-ups. Arizona and Colorado, I don't know what to think because Arizona, I assumed, would take the next step this year. And we didn't talk about it, but real quick, Arizona, Mississippi State. How do we not talk about that? That's the game that we need to win as a conference.
Well, I watched it last year. That's what I'm saying because I watched it last year when they were at home. And yeah,
I think Zona improves, and then unfortunately with Mike Leach, RIP, passing away, I think they get worse. So.
Fair point. So what do you think about what about the Omar Spates leaving? How much is that going to hurt your defense? Guy's a beast. Guy's a tackle machine.
I know. Yeah, he as soon as he entered the portal, Texas A&M right away offered him. I don't know how much. That's not public knowledge, but he hasn't committed there yet. It hurts. We got a transfer from Larry's Utes, Mason Chufaga, former 4-star inside linebacker. So. We figure he'll compete right away for playing time. And then our backups I was really excited about. Our inside linebacker room, I'm not too worried. Replacing our cornerbacks, I am very worried. Both our corners leave.
That's going to be your that was the strength of your
be,
defense, along with his tackling inside. But yeah, should be a good year for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, our safeties get better. Our D-line gets better. Our linebackers are probably about the same. Our corners get worse. So our defense will be about that, like, 10th place nationally range, still great, but our offense improved. So will that be enough to put us over the top with DJ is the question. But yeah, I can't wait for this award show. I took off my tux. I'll put it back on for next week if we do call-ins. I have to practice my speech for all the awards I'm going to be winning, but it should be fun.
We have some good awards.
Maybe.
Looking forward to it, guys. I'll get out of here.
Hey, thank you, Connor.
Thanks, Connor.
Thanks for joining. Go Beefs. All right, Will, any final thoughts?
I'm going to be a little petty here. I'm disgusted by this USC schedule leading up to Notre Dame. It's Cupcake City, man. It's Cupcake City. Like, and the fact that they get the Arizona game.
Yeah, you want to flip a couple of those with some of the ones later in the season? We're fine with that.
I mean, look, like group of five. I mean, I know we lost at Stanford last year, but it's still Stanford. Arizona
you don't
State.
get to talk smack about Stanford. You got to beat Stanford before you can talk smack about them.
But I mean, Arizona State, Colorado.
Will,
Arizona.
do you mean when we play your daddy at home? When we flog your daddy at home? Yes.
Oh my gosh. Then you got Colorado, who's not going to be good still. People are saying they're going to be good. They're not going to be good yet. And then you got Arizona at home. If it was at Arizona, I'm like, okay, that's a difficult game. But it's at home on a Friday, so they have an extra day to prepare for the Irish. I just think it's petty, man.
I think it'll end up on Saturday, to be honest.
Wait, hold on, Will. Do you guys have a bye? Do you have a bye before the SC game or no?
No, we don't. We're playing at Louisville.
That's a shock. All right, I'm wondering.
Would you say that Arizona is better or worse than Marshall?
I mean, you're probably better than Marshall, but
yeah,
I'm just
probably.
Kidding, Will. I'm sorry, Will. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Will. We're just teasing you, Eddie. Thank you very much. Tim, you want to take this one?
Let me read it. Continues that bad on D. Does it show improvement? Okay. It's very Eddie. It's really too early to say that. I mean, as much as the offense, if you look at our offense, how good would our offense have been if we didn't have all those guys, those 5-star guys, come in on our offense? We didn't have that same group of transfers coming in last year on defense, and our offensive line still was pretty thin, so we couldn't do what as much of what Rick was screaming at them to do is play that ball control, kind of like that first drive you saw against Tulane, where they held the ball for, I don't know, 8 minutes, whatever it was. Get ready for more of that. Get ready for running. That's going to take some pressure off the defense. But as we were talking earlier about Cobb and other guys, you're going to be surprised with some of the guys that he's bringing on defense. These guys can tackle. So is our defense going to be great? I don't know. Will Grinch be there? Who knows? But the short answer is going to be USC's defense is going to be vastly improved. The roster is going to be a hell of a lot better. So the pressure will be on Grinch.
Yeah, Tim, I think you nailed it. Will, Troy's pointing something out.
I try.
And
listen,
tree
that year's
back.
over. Okay, 2022 is over. This is all about 2023. We don't have to talk about 2022 anymore.
All right, I like it. Will, give us some final thoughts here.
Really excited for the Pac-12. I hope ASU can make a bowl game with Drew. I don't have high hopes, but that's what I'm hoping for out of anything. But Pac-12 is going to be great. Excited for the Irish season. Going to be a fun year in 2023.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me, guys.
See you, Will. Thank you.
TBM.
Yeah, I mean the schedule coming out today or whatever reminded me how much I love this conference, and I really am looking forward to what will be UCLA and SC's last season in the conference, and a season in which I think the conference is going to have a lot of hype and a lot of really, really good teams and a lot of really, really good games. So I'm excited for that. And I'm also excited for our award show next week. And I hope to see everyone there. Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
Good seeing you, Chris. Have a good night.
LBC.
Hey, it was great to be back with everybody. It's been a couple weeks. Thanks to everybody who joined us in the chat tonight. As you can tell, I'm a little fired up. This is the first kind of news for the next season. It's been a long 2 weeks. And it's going to be an exciting offseason. Looking forward to these games. Look forward to seeing everybody next week for our Pac-12 award show. And we can, I guess, get our early predictions for who's going to make it to the Pac-12 championship game next year and who's going to be our winner. I guess that's what we're going to be. Is that what we're doing, Tony and Tim?
You bet.
We're getting those in. We'll look forward to seeing you guys next week, next Wednesday. Until then, fight on.
We can't let you get bottled. Oh, he left. We can't let Rick get bottled up for 2 weeks. He's got to get that out every week. I don't think it's safe for the internet if we bottle him up for 2 weeks. Just want to echo what they said about the award show. It should be a really fun time. Tell your friends. There are going to be some serious ones, obviously, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun. So hopefully you guys can make it out and join us. It should be interesting. That's going to be Tuesday, correct? I believe, Chris, is that right?
Yeah, Tuesday.
So it'll be Tuesday at 7:30 instead of the regular Wednesday at 7:30. But we will be here Tuesday 7:30 next week with our award show. Please do us a favor if you could. Drop some of your nominations in the comment section, not in the chat, so we won't see it. But after the show closes, go ahead and drop us some of your nominations, or or who you think should win Coach of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year. You know the awards. Just go ahead and make some up if you want to. Feel free to have a little fun as well. And I appreciate all of you guys being here, and thank you, panel, for being here as always.
Thanks, Tim. All right. Hey, guys, this schedule is exciting. There are going to be some incredible games next year, and I'm already excited for them. I'll tell you, so we laughed about my jokes about going up to Cal, but this could be USC's last time in Memorial Stadium in a long time. And the history of USC going up there is so special because for so long, that was North and South. That was, the old money in the dusty little mustard town trying to build itself up that became LA against the flashy town of San Francisco. That was, Northern California and Southern California clashing. I mean, USC got its nickname, the Trojans, after losing a track meet to Berkeley. So there's so much history there. And USC going up there, and these final these final 4 Pac-12 games for USC, I just think are really incredible, because then Washington, who's always been our partner in crime, Washington ruled the North while USC ruled the South for decades, comes to LA for one last time. USC goes up to Oregon for its final trip of note into Autzen Stadium. And then you have the last USC UCLA game in the Pac-12. And then the next week, you've got Cal and UCLA. And that game, I mean, I know some of you guys don't know all the history behind it. There is so much history behind that game too. And I hope as we talk about this season, and it is the last Pac-12 season of USC and UCLA, take a moment and take a breath and enjoy it. Enjoy the excitement, enjoy the build up that's going to be around for a lot of months, and enjoy the season that's about to come. So to everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Mark for letting us be here. Thank you to all of you in the chat. Thank you to everybody who's watching. Make your award suggestions in the comments. We'd love to see them, and we'll see you all next week. Fight on, everybody.